Hi guys, my name is Jenna, and today I'll be taking a look at the Guild Wars 2 beta, and in particular the Mesmer profession. The Mesmer is a light armor profession, and has an incredibly versatile playstyle that can easily adapt to any combat situation. From my experience, it's the hardest learning curve of any character I've played so far. It also has one of the easiest grinds I've experienced in any MMO yet. This Mesmer was leveled to 16 in less than 1 day of play, completely solo, and that's likely due to the flexibility of the profession. If I bring up the hero menu and go into the skills and traits tab, you can view all of the skills that the Mesmer has available. Unfortunately, as the Norn starting zone doesn't really have a whole lot of water for underwater combat, I haven't fully leveled the harpoon or trident skills. Note that the Mesmer has the ability to have a sword in both the main hand as well as the offhand. If you equip the sword in the main hand, it'll give your character these 3 abilities, while placing it in your offhand will give your character these 2 abilities. You can of course use both swords, one in each hand, and make use of all 5 abilities, or you can mix it up by equipping other one-handed weapons. I'm going to begin by equipping one sword in each hand. The first ability that I gain is called Mind Slash, which is a chain ability that causes damage. Kind of your basic bread and butter auto attack. When you first start the game, you're going to have one ability, and by killing enemies you unlock the next one. Main hand abilities always unlock before offhand abilities. The next ability is called Leap, and the intricacies of the Mesmer profession begin to unfold. The Mesmer is going to summon an illusion that looks just like you, has the same name as you, but at the same time your character is going to leap forward at the enemy, crippling it for a few seconds. So the illusion or clone is left behind you, but it will catch up. If that wasn't enough, the third ability using the sword in the main hand, Illusionary Leap, summons an illusion that leaps itself at your enemy while you stay put, again crippling the target for a few seconds. Keep in mind that the Mesmer can have up to 3 illusions at any one time. They don't have a lot of HP and can be killed if they're targeted directly, but talk about amazing for PvP.
Defense, then offense.
The first offhand sword ability is called Riposte. You can use it to block your foe by creating an illusion if you're attacked. If you aren't attacked, you'll gain Retaliation, which is a reflection status for a few seconds. The last sword ability is Illusionary Sword. This is a Phantasm ability. Phantasms are an illusion that seems to have a bit more HP, different weapons, and it does have its own name versus the other illusions, which are kind of just clones of your character. I've equipped my Mesmer with a greatsword. I must confess that this set of abilities is my personal favorite. For your first ability, Spatial Surge, you get to shoot beams out of your sword. The further away you are, the more damage you deal. It's a sword, and it's ranged. I think it's great. The next ability is called Feigned Escape. Basically, you create a clone and roll away from the target. So you sort of leave your clone there to take the beating while you get more range, dealing more damage with Spatial Surge. I guess that's the reason I love this combination so much, is because it just fits so well together. All of the abilities really complement each other. Mind Stab thrusts your sword underground, doing damage to your target from underneath. It also dazes your enemy for a couple of seconds. Because the greatsword is a 2-hander, you get a full 5 abilities with this one weapon. The 4th ability, Phantasmal Berserker, creates a phantasm that uses a whirling attack to damage. It also cripples your enemy for a couple seconds. The last ability, Illusionary Wave, pushes back all enemies in front of you with a wave of magical energy. Now I've equipped a Scepter. As it's a main hand only weapon, I've selected a pistol as my offhand. The first skill you gain with the Scepter is Ether Bolt. This skill shoots bolts of energy that not only damage but also confuse your target. Illusionary Counter is similar to the one-handed sword's Riposte skill. It will block the next attack and create a clone that casts Ether Bolt. If you aren't attacked, it'll blind your target for a few seconds. The last Scepter skill is called Confusing Images. This channels a beam of energy that both damages and blinds your enemy. pistol is, in my opinion, one of the better offhands for dealing with multiple targets. The first skill, Duelist, creates a phantasm illusion that unloads its pistol onto your enemies. And the second skill, Trick Shot, hits up to 3 foes with a single shot. The first one is blinded, the second one is dazed, and the third one is stunned. The staff is another two-handed weapon that the Mesmer can use, and it's all about the buffs. And debuffs. The first ability, Chaos Strike, applies damage and a random condition to your enemy. The second ability, Duplicate, creates a clone, and it will attack using Chaos Strike as well. So now both of you can apply random conditions to your targets. Winds of Chaos will bounce an orb of energy between enemies and allies, giving boons to friends and random conditions to foes. So it will buff and debuff, while you and your clone also debuff targets. I'm beginning to notice a trend. Illusionary Warlock summons a phantasm that deals extra damage for each condition on the target. With you and your clone and an orb already casting status effects, this should rack up some decent damage, as long as your phantasm doesn't get targeted directly. Chaos Storm is the last staff ability. It creates a magical storm at the target and applies random conditions to enemies and boons to allies. So you can now buff and debuff while you buff and debuff. I'm confused. Let's move on. The Focus and Torch are both offhands. They can be paired with any of the one-handed weapons. I've equipped my Mesmer with a one-handed sword to show you each of these offhands. Remember that offhands only give your character 2 abilities, and they are shown after the main hand abilities. The first skill the Focus gives you is called Temporal Curtain. It creates a wall of energy that grants swiftness to allies who cross it, and cripples foes who touch it. The other ability is Illusionary Warden, which creates a phantasm that attacks your target and creates a defensive bubble to protect itself and allies against projectiles. The Torch's first ability, the Prestige, allows your Mesmer to disappear in a cloud of smoke, blinding nearby foes. You'll appear a few seconds later, burning your enemies with fire. The second ability of the Torch is called Illusionary Mage. It creates a phantasm that applies confusion to enemies and retaliation to allies, reflecting damage to its source. It's pretty apparent that the Mesmer's ability to use clones and phantasms set it apart from the rest of the game's professions. Up until this point, you've seen several abilities where the Mesmer has summoned illusions. Mesmers also have 4 different abilities to shatter their illusions before they are killed by an enemy. Note that using any of these shatters will destroy all of your illusions, and getting the timing right to optimize their use before destroying them can take some getting used to. The first shatter, Mind Wreck, destroys your illusions, dealing damage to your target. Cry of Frustration destroys the illusions to cause confusion to your enemy. Diversion destroys them for a stun, and Reflection destroys them for a reflection for each shatter. In addition to all of the abilities given to your character from weapons, you also have slot skills, which you can purchase using skill points. These skill points range from healing to field effects, and even more clone abilities. Some of these slots are called mantras. Mantras are first charged up and then used in combat. One advantage to using mantras is that you can charge them while out of combat and unleash them when needed. As you level, more slots will be available for you to use in combat. I hope all of you have enjoyed the overview on the Mesmer from the Guild Wars 2 beta. Remember that beta is beta, and abilities could vary upon release.